The O'Hare Airport Control Tower gave routine clearance to an American jetliner, Flight 191, bound for Los Angeles. Then at takeoff, an incredible sight to the aircraft tower controllers. The port, or left engine on the giant DC-10, suddenly fell off, cartwheeling to the runway below. What happened then is a thing that nightmares are made of. Tower observers and eyewitnesses on the ground giving me a composite report that the plane seemed to hesitate, then make some sort of a zigzag maneuver, begin to climb again, then to side slip to the left. Moments later, as seen from the Channel 9 helicopter, the plane smashed into a field just north of the airport runway. The nose and the left wing apparently hit first. A gas station attendant, standing less than 100 yards away, told me that the plane apparently began to flip over on impact, but instead of cartwheeling, there were multiple explosions, and the silver plane suddenly became a surrealistic picture, etched, as he said, in orange and black. Policemen who were training canine unit dogs right next to the field told me they thought they were about to be killed. The impact and the fire were so intense. They said they had no warning at all, but they're so used to low-flying jets almost at the end of the runway that they paid no attention to the noise until the plane, as one policeman said, suddenly filled his whole horizon. An all-points emergency plan was put into effect. It involved fire, police, and ambulance units from a dozen surrounding towns. At one point, there were some 36 ambulances and 300 to 400 police and fire units at the scene. But the disaster plan was a useless effort. There were simply no survivors. 257 passengers, a 13-person working crew, and 2 other airline employees returning to their California base all died. At least that is the last count we get. There has been a lot of confusion on the numbers. While ambulance and the fire rescue crews searched, in vain it appeared, for survivors, other fire units had their hands full trying to prevent the fire from spreading through an adjacent trailer park. As it would turn out, there was damage to a handful of the trailers, and people in the area would be injured, but none of them serious. 2 were admitted to hospitals with burns. One trailer resident, however, told me he escaped death by inches. He said a 3-foot piece of metal from the plane shot through the window of his trailer as he sat watching television. In the field, there was no sharp delineation, however. A huge black crater marked the apparent center of the impact area, a blackened engine, a wing section. Those were the only indications that what we saw here had ever been an airplane. Federal Aviation spokesman Neil Callahan told News 9 reporter Don Harris that the towers saw a problem just before takeoff, called the pilot saying, "Do you want to return?" There was no answer from the cockpit. From this wreckage, National Transportation Safety Board investigators have retrieved the so-called black boxes, recorders for cockpit conversation, and for continuous readout of all the electronics that indicate such things as engine function, altitude of the plane itself, fuel, and a score of essential guidance system reports. Those units, we understand, are now on their way to Washington, D.C., where they will be decoded, a rather complex procedure, where the mystery of exactly what caused American Flight 191 to crash. About a mile from the crash site, in a hangar, officials have set up a morgue. The bodies, put in yellow and white bags, are being transferred there as the long, nearly impossible task of identification begins. Investigators say they have to rely on watch and jewelry descriptions and inscriptions, the few documents that are intact, and other personal possessions to help in the identification. Mayor Jane Byrne was on hand at the crash site. From this crash, there is no hope of simple recognition